What's actually the most fun elite spec to play in Guild Wars 2 in 2025? That's the big question we're answering today, in what else than another tier list. I'm Mesmer, and yes, this is officially my last tier list before Guild Wars 2 Visions of Eternity drops. I'm going to revisit this tier list after the expansion to see how the new specs shake up the rankings. So make sure to hit subscribe if you don't want to miss that. Alright, before we dive into the good stuff, let's clear something up. This tier list is about fun, not DPS numbers, not meta comps, not how fast you can melt a training golem. Fun is subjective, you can't objectively rate fun. So this is just my personal take. If your favorite elite specs lands lower than expected, hey, that just means you might have more fun with it than I do. To make things fair, I'm putting all the core classes in baseline. Why? Because core classes are the foundation, the neutral ground. Elite specs are supposed to add something new, something spicy, something that makes the class feel fresh. If they don't, well, that's where the lower tier comes in. Let's start with Elementalist. Elementalist has always been a fan favorite because, well, mages. Big flashy attacks, a billion buttons, and the constant feeling that you're one key press away from deleting either your enemy or yourself. Let's start with Catalyst. Catalyst is for me B tier. It's fine. It adds a little extra spice with auras and Shadesphere thing, but it doesn't redefine the class. It honestly just feels like core Elementalist, but giga buffed. Interesting? Maybe a little. Unique? Not so much. Still better than baseline, but to be honest, far from amazing, and it's almost core Elementalist. Weaver is the complete opposite. Swapping elements mid-fight, weaving attacks together, it's like dancing while holding a fireball in one hand and an ice storm in the other. Unique playstyle, incredible design, but yes, it's not the strongest right now. I don't care, it's fun. S tier. Tempest is slower, but it nails the support fantasy, and even a very good DPS fantasy as well. Overloads feel impactful, the shouts are flavorful, and it gives the class a clear identity. Not as wild as Weaver, but very satisfying to play. Easy S tier 2. Next up, the class of gadgets and gizmos. Engineer. Let's start with Scrapper. Scrapper's gyro system is neat, and hammer gameplay is very iconic, even though you can now use it on every single engineer. It's not mind-blowingly different from core engineer, but it adds a nice layer of flavor, and I think it's still deserving a spot in A tier. Holosmith. The Photon Forge, heat management, flashy visuals, super satisfying gameplay. Holosmith is what happens when Engineer and Laser Wraith have a child. Easy S tier for design and the fun factor. Then we have Mechanist. Mechanist is the pet spec, and if you like AI friends, that's cool. If you don't, welcome to my camp. It's functional, it's slower paced, and a little too passive for my taste, and way too little agency on your own gameplay, more on your pet, and that's not what I like, so I personally think B tier for me. Guardian Time. One of the strongest class fantasies in the game. Shiny, holy, sometimes unkillable. Let's start with Firebrand. Firebrand has tomes, mantras, a lot of skill variety, and so much flexibility with it. Firebrand doesn't just add flavor to Guardian, it completely rewrites how the class plays. Top tier design. Easy S tier. Next up, Willbender. Fun, fast, fiery, but a bit shallow. Virtues and utilities aren't super exciting on Willbender, but the movement is amazing, and I think it's very fun to play. It just lacks a little bit of the interesting design decisions in terms of utility skills mostly. That's why A tier for me. Then we have Dragon Hunter. Dragon Hunter for me is somewhat similar to Willbender. I might be a bit controversial here by saying this, but I personally think for me it's low A tier. I know people love the H, but for me it's not as engaging. The traps feel stiff, the traits are meh, and I personally think it's above baseline for sure, but it's not that high. That's why I put it in low A tier. Next up, Mesmer. The Mesmer elite specs are transformative, I guess that's the word. These specs don't just add a button, they turn the whole class inside out. Virtuoso uses blade songs, which are fun, flashy, and rewarding to use, especially in PvE, I would say. It's a solid spec, but a bit rigid in build crafting, at least for me. It's still very enjoyable, that's why A tier, probably top of A tier. Then we have Mirage. Mirage is pure fun. Very chaotic, but very fun. Dodge to deal damage, instant cast skills, a fast-paced playstyle, exactly what I like. It punishes bad timing and rewards good instincts. Absolutely love this design, and therefore S tier. Lastly for Mesmer, we have Necromancer. Continuum Split, Wells, Time Magic. This spec oozes identity. Everything about it screams I control time and you don't. Easy S tier for one of the most well-designed specs in the game. I'm sorry for this pun. Then we have Necromancer. Necromancer, if you like edgy class fantasy, Necromancer got you covered. Let's start with Reaper. One of the best designed specs ever in my opinion. The greatsword fits so perfect to it. I like the sight, the melee pressure, and that Reaper Shroud feeling is awesome. Every hit lands like a truck and it's incredibly satisfying. It doesn't matter what kind of build you play, it's always fun. Reaper, easy S tier. Next up, Harbinger. Fast, mobile and stylish. It trades the tankiness from Necromancer and Reaper for tempo. Really fun to play, but not as iconic as Reaper. Somewhat squishy because of the missing Shroud of course, and I personally think it's not as unique as Reaper is. Even though you could argue the Shroud is more unique. I just don't feel it, for me it's A tier. Then we have Scourge. The barrier support, the shade gameplay, thematic as hell. Utility skills are a little bland, but the core mechanic carries it. For me, somewhat similar to Harbinger, A tier. Next up, Ranger. Ranger specs are surprisingly close together in design quality, at least for me. Let's start off with Untamed. It started off very meh, but after buffs it became really fun and snappy. I'm still not saying it's S tier, complexity, or at least not in terms of design, maybe in gameplay wise, but not in complexity of how it's designed, and therefore I would put it in A tier. It's fun and fitting to Ranger, just not my personal highest. Then we have Soul Beast, somewhat similar to Untamed. Merging with your pet is very cool. It's a bit linear, lacks a little bit of extra spice, but it's definitely A tier for me. And then we have Druid. Druid is a very well designed support spec with a clear class fantasy. However, it's not the flashiest and it's also not like insane of theory crafting, and I don't really think it's that much of a step up from core Ranger. So I personally, that might be a hot take, would also put it in A tier. All Ranger specs A tier. Revenant. Oh, Revenant. It's a cool concept. It's a really cool concept. Very cool weapons, very cool attacks and legends, but when it comes to elite spec design, it's a little underwhelming. All of them feel somewhat similar in terms of that they are just adding one F2 or F3 button and that's about it. Let's start with Vindicator. Vindicator for me is B tier. Yeah, that might be a hot take, but this one special dodge, that's the mechanic. I don't know, it doesn't feel like enough. The Alliance stance is cool, I think it's one of the coolest, if not the coolest legend, but it's not enough in terms of impact for the whole elite spec to play. I don't know, it doesn't feel as impactful as other classes. Then we have Herald. Herald brings a lot of nice utility, solid support. It's not revolutionary. Maybe I'm putting it higher than Vindicator because of my nostalgia for it. When Heart of Thorns came out, I played a lot of Herald. So low A tier for me, but you could make the argument for also putting it in B tier, I guess. Then we have Renegade. Renegade is, again, similar story. Fun to play, but design-wise a bit on the safe side. It's not really like adding too much. I think the summons, the spirits are also not that insane. For me, again, low A tier. Sorry, Revenant fans. I love the class, but I think the elite spec by design are not on top. Then we have Thief. Thief is the class with one of my absolute favorites and one I find painfully boring. Let's start with the best one, Spectre, S tier, easy S tier. Perfect execution of shadow support fantasy, the Shroud mechanic, very unique traits, flavorful and fun. Absolute chef's kiss, nothing that you could actually improve on that. Really, really good. Then we have Daredevil. I think Daredevil is somewhere in the middle. Extra dodges, strong traits, very interesting. More mobility, very fun to play. Fills his niche quite well. It doesn't break new ground. It feels like a core Thief plus, but it does it well enough so that it actually deserves a spot in A tier, I would say. And then we have Deadeye. I know, rifle is cool, stealth sniping is cool, at least if you're a Thief main, but the spec feels too similar to core Thief with a rifle. I think it's not exciting to play, it's a little bit gimmicky, it has too many cast times for me as a Thief enjoyer that uses the instant cast. I don't like Deadeye that much. It's just slower, less exciting and kind of one note. I'm not sure. I'm not the biggest fan. B tier for me. And lastly we have Warrior, the big, beefy bonk class. What can I say? Let's start with Berserker. It has a fun Berserk mode with nice flow. Quite spammy, but nice flow. Some of the utilities and traits feel a little bit like gimmicky, clunky maybe even. The roleplay fantasy is spot on. I personally would say Berserker for me, A tier. Maybe low A tier, depend who you ask. I think A tier. Then we have Spellbreaker. It feels like a core warrior with an interrupt, with a block. It's not bad, but not groundbreaking. I think it's decent in low A tier because it has its niche. It wants what it wants to be. It's not as flashy, of course, because it's a warrior. I guess that's how a warrior plays out. So low A tier for me. Then we have Bladesong. I'm not the biggest fan of Bladesong. I'm really sorry for your fans out there. But the Gunsaber is meh. The Dragon Trigger is the star. But that's kind of the problem. The spec revolves around one thing. Hitting the Dragon Triggers. And the whole traits, the whole utility skills, they just don't really add that much. It's just a Dragon Trigger. It's fun in short bursts, but not really deep. I personally am not the biggest fan of Bladesong. I think it needs some help. I think it should not only be the Dragon Trigger, maybe something else. For me, B tier. And there you have it. My 2025 Fun Factor Elite Spec tier list for Guild Wars 2. Notice something. Even my B tier picks are still above the core specs. That's not by accident. The core classes set the baseline. And even the less exciting Elite specs usually add something fun. This tier list is going to age like milk. The moment Guild Wars 2 Visions of Eternity drops, and I can't wait to update it then. Because of course I have to add the new Elite specs in there, and maybe I have to change even my opinion on the old ones. If you enjoyed this breakdown, drop a like, it really helps me out. And if you want to see the updated list with the new specs, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss it. Please let me know your takes in the comments down below. I will be very excited to see if you agree with me or if you disagree, because this is very subjective, so I have no clue if you actually agree with anything I've said here. So let me know down in the comments. And of course, a special shout out to my amazing supporters who help me keep the lights on. You all rock. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in Tyria or the next video.